Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're diving into Hyperliquid, this decentralized exchange and layer one blockchain.
It's been making a lot of noise recently.
Yeah, it really has.
Yeah.
So we've got articles, data points, all that good stuff, all prepped and ready so we can give you the need-to-know info on Hyperliquid.
Like you said, it's a rising star, but there are some definite storm clouds gathering.
Right, exactly. So let's start with the good stuff. Hyperliquid has been absolutely crushing it in terms of trading volume.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. Analyst Ansem tweeted that their 24-hour spot trading volume hit $640 million.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the same as Bitcoin on Coinbase.
That's incredible for a relatively new player in the space.
For sure. And back in December 2024, they actually surpassed Ethereum's trading volume.
Yeah, they hit over $500 billion.
That's insane. And of course, we can't forget about their native token, HYPE.
Oh, yeah. HYPE launched in late November.
And it surged over 600% in value.
Peaked at a $10 billion market cap.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Definitely caught the attention of a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But like with all things crypto, there's always a flip side, right?
There's always a flip side.
So with that in mind, Hyperliquid recently saw a massive outflow of $60 million in USDC stablecoin.
Yeah, the timing is a little suspicious.
Right. Especially with all this talk about possible North Korean hacker involvement.
Yeah, there's a lot of chatter about that.
So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so the concern is coming from activity that's been traced back to specific North Korean hacker addresses on Hyperliquid.
Interesting.
Yeah, and security analysts like Tay on X have pointed out that these addresses have racked up over $700,000 in trading losses.
Okay, so I have to ask, why would hackers intentionally lose money?
Right, it seems counterintuitive.
Totally.
So the theory that a lot of security experts are putting forward is that these aren't your typical day traders, right? These are North Korean hackers who are known for targeting crypto platforms.
Yeah.
And often they'll use these bad trades as a way to kind of probe for vulnerabilities.
Oh, so it's like a test run.
Exactly. A test run before potentially launching a much larger attack.
Okay, so these losses could just be the tip of the iceberg.
That's what people are worried about.
That's a scary thought.
It is. And there are other concerns, too, like security expert Taylor Monahan.
Yeah?
She highlighted that Hyperliquid's validator set is unusually centralized with just 4 validators.
So a small group could potentially gain control of a big chunk of the network.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah, if they manage to compromise the platform's security, the consequences could be really bad.
Not just for Hyperliquid.
Not just for Hyperliquid, but for the wider DeFi ecosystem.
It's kind of a domino effect.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's definitely the scary part. But to be fair to Hyperliquid Labs, they have officially denied any vulnerability or exploit.
Right, they've issued a statement.
Yeah, they're saying all funds are safe and pointing to their security measures.
They've got a bug bounty program, and they're using blockchain analytics.
So they're trying to be proactive?
Yeah, it seems like they're taking it seriously.
But even with those reassurances, investors still got spooked, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The HYPE token took a pretty big hit.
Dropped over 25% in value.
Yeah, that's a significant drop.
It's understandable, though. People get nervous when they hear about security risks.
For sure. But it's not all doom and gloom.
No, not at all.
The HYPE token has rebounded a bit since Hyperliquid Labs addressed those concerns.
Yeah, it's recovered some ground.
So maybe some investors are feeling a little more confident.
Yeah, it seems that way, but there's still a lot of uncertainty in the market.
Right, and we also have to consider the data from Dune Analytics.
Oh, yeah.
They're showing a record high net outflow of $114.7 million in USDC liquidity from Hyperliquid's deposit bridge just yesterday.
Wow, that's a significant amount.
So it seems like even though the token price is recovering, there's still a lot of hesitation.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
So where does all of this leave Hyperliquid?
Well, they've got incredible growth, but they're also facing some serious challenges.
Yeah, it's like a crossroads for them.
It really is. The next few weeks will be critical.
What do you think they need to do?
They need to prove that their platform is secure.
And regain the trust of their users.
Exactly. If they want to maintain their position in the DeFi space, they need to address these concerns head on.
And it's worth noting that they are still a dominant player.
No, absolutely.
They're still commanding over 50% of the On-chain perpetual futures trading volume.
Yeah, so they have a lot to fight for.
It's a really interesting situation.
It is. It's a classic example of the incredible opportunities and the risks that come with DeFi.
The highs and lows of the crypto world.
Exactly. And it raises some important questions about security and transparency in decentralized platforms.
Questions that we need to be asking.
Absolutely. We need to be having these conversations.
So the big question is, will Hyperliquid be able to weather this storm?
Will they be able to continue their remarkable growth, or will these security concerns cause lasting damage?
Only time will tell, but it's definitely a story worth watching.
I agree. It'll be fascinating to see how this all plays out.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here in part 1 of our deep dive into Hyperliquid.
We've only just scratched the surface.
We have, but we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back in part 2, we'll delve into the potential impact of all of this on individual investors like you, so stay tuned.
We'll see you soon. Welcome back to your deep dive into Hyperliquid.
Okay, so before the break, we were talking about those security concerns swirling around Hyperliquid.
And what it all might mean for DeFi as a whole.
It really does feel like a watershed moment,
In a lot of ways, yeah.
not just for Hyperliquid, but for the entire idea of DeFi.
Right. If a platform with this much volume and buzz can get targeted, it makes you think
It really does.
about all those smaller, less established projects out there.
Right, what are they doing to protect themselves?
Exactly.
Hyperliquid says they have all these robust security measures in place,
Sure.
but it's obvious that that's not always enough.
It's tough because it's a constantly evolving landscape.
Right, so what can these platforms actually do to protect themselves?
Well, it's an ongoing challenge, right? Platforms have to be proactive.
So constantly updating their security protocol.
Yeah, and staying ahead of those emerging threats.
Which is easier said than done, I'm sure.
It is, and it's not just about the technology either.
Oh, interesting.
User education is a big part of it, too.
Yeah, making sure users understand the risks.
Exactly. It's a shared responsibility.
Platforms need to prioritize security,
Yeah.
and users need to be informed.
And take precautions. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so back to Hyperliquid.
Yeah.
You were saying what platforms can do to bolster their defenses.
Yeah.
That's a big question.
It's multifaceted for sure.
Okay, so walk me through it. What are some of the key areas these platforms need to focus on?
Okay, well, one crucial aspect is the structure of the platform itself.
Right, and you mentioned Hyperliquid's centralized validator set before.
With just those 4 validators.
Yeah, that's a potential weak point, right?
It is, because it means a small group could theoretically gain control.
Of a big chunk of the
A
network.
significant portion. Yeah.
So a more decentralized platform would be more secure.
Generally speaking, yes.
Okay.
Decentralization is kind of at the heart of DeFi,
Right?
and it plays a big role in mitigating risk.
Oh.
The more decentralized a platform is, the harder it is for any one entity or small group to manipulate things.
Makes sense.
But it's not always that simple.
Oh, what do you mean?
Well, there are trade-offs.
What kind of trade-offs?
While a highly decentralized platform might be more resistant to attacks,
Okay.
but it can also be slower,
Ah, I see.
less efficient.
Okay.
So there's this balancing act.
Between security, speed, and scalability.
You got it.
Right.
And that's something that platforms have to carefully consider.
No easy answers.
Not really, no.
So DeFi platforms and the users need to be aware of those trade-offs
Absolutely.
and choose platforms that match their risk tolerance.
Exactly. And that brings up another critical point.
What's that?
Education.
Oh, right. We were talking about that.
The more users understand about how these platforms work,
The technology, the risks, the potential rewards,
the whole 9 yards.
the better equipped they'll be to make good decisions.
Smart decisions, yes, and protect themselves.
So it's not just about trusting the platform blindly.
No, it's about being an informed user,
Okay, I like that.
being responsible.
So let's shift gears a bit.
Sure.
We've talked a lot about the security stuff surrounding Hyperliquid,
Yeah.
but they've also had some technical issues,
They have, haven't they?
right? Remember that tweet we saw about transaction volume declining?
Yeah, I remember that.
So what's the deal with that? Is this like a sign of bigger problems or just growing pains?
It's hard to say without more information from Hyperliquid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not uncommon for platforms to experience hiccups as they scale.
Especially in a fast-paced environment like DeFi.
It's true, things move quickly.
So it's not necessarily time to panic, but definitely something to keep an eye on.
I would agree, especially for users who are actively trading.
Right, because if there are issues processing transactions...
That erodes user confidence.
Yeah, makes sense.
It can be a real problem.
Okay, so we have the security concerns on one hand and these technical issues on the other.
It's a lot to juggle.
It seems like Hyperliquid is facing a perfect storm right now.
I think you could say that, yeah.
Security, technical stability, market sentiment.
It's all interconnected.
And they're all kind of hitting at the same time.
Right. It's a critical test for them.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's almost like their meteoric rise has kind of backfired.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, success attracts attention.
Good and bad.
Yeah, both the admirers and the exploiters.
Exactly.
So how they handle this will really determine what happens next.
If they can address the security and technical issues, reassure investors, regain momentum.
They could come out of this stronger.
Yeah, they could.
But there's also the possibility that things could go the other way
There is that possibility.
if they don't handle this well.
If they fail to address these concerns, yeah.
They could lose users.
Trading volume could decline.
The HYPE token price could drop even further.
It's all on the table.
And that could have a ripple effect throughout the DeFi space.
Oh, absolutely. Hyperliquid is a big player.
Right. If they stumble, it could shake confidence in the whole sector.
It could make people think twice about DeFi in general.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So there's a lot at stake here.
Not just for Hyperliquid, but for DeFi as a whole.
For the whole ecosystem.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second and look at the big picture.
Okay.
What does all of this tell us about the state of DeFi right now?
Well, I think it really highlights both the incredible potential.
And the inherent risks.
Exactly. DeFi is still in its early stages.
It's innovative, it's disruptive,
It's attracting a lot of attention and a lot of money.
but it's also a magnet for bad actors.
That's true, unfortunately.
So it's a bit of a Wild West out there.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Exciting, but risky.
Very risky.
And this whole situation with Hyperliquid really underscores the importance of due diligence.
Of doing your research
Thinking critically.
and having a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right, don't just jump in because of the hype.
Or the FOMO.
Yeah, take the time to really understand the technology, the risks, the potential rewards.
Before you invest.
Before you put your money in.
Exactly.
And there are resources out there to help people navigate this.
Absolutely.
Deep dives like this.
Reputable news sources.
Educational platforms.
There's a wealth of information out there.
So people can empower themselves.
Make good decisions.
Informed decisions.
Right.
So that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
Empowering individuals to participate in DeFi safely.
And responsibly.
So the future of DeFi is bright,
It is.
but it's up to all of us
Platforms, investors, educators.
to ensure that it grows sustainably.
And responsibly, yes.
Okay, so we've covered a lot here in part 2.
We have.
What's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I think the main takeaway is that DeFi is exciting.
But it's not without its risks.
Stay informed, stay vigilant, and always do your research.
Before you make any investment decisions.
That's the key.
And remember, we're here to help you navigate this.
This complex world of DeFi.
All right, well, stay tuned for the final part of your deep dive,
Coming up after the break.
where we'll explore some potential future scenarios for Hyperliquid and the DeFi space as a whole.
Welcome back to the final part of your deep dive. So we've covered a lot about Hyperliquid.
We have, haven't we?
Yeah. Their growth, the security issues they're dealing with, the broader implications for DeFi, what it all means for investors.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack.
It is. But now I want to look ahead.
Okay.
What might the future hold for Hyperliquid?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, right?
It is.
And like most things in crypto, it's tough to predict with any certainty.
That's for sure.
But I think we can explore some potential scenarios.
Based on what we know right now.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's put on our prognostication hats.
I love it.
What are some of the key factors that are going to determine Hyperliquid's fate?
Well, I think one of the biggest factors is going to be how they handle these security concerns.
They've taken some steps, right? Yeah, they've issued statements they're cooperating with investigators.
But it's going to take more than that
They need to show some concrete action.
to regain that trust.
Yeah, the trust of users and the market in general.
So what does concrete action look like in this case?
Well, for starters, they need to thoroughly investigate that alleged North Korean hacker activity
And then what?
and provide a transparent account of what happened.
No more hiding behind vague statements.
Right, exactly. If there are vulnerabilities, they need to fix them quickly and decisively.
For transparency and decisive action are key.
Absolutely.
Okay, but what about those technical issues they've been having?
Right. Those can't be ignored either.
Because users need to know that the platform is reliable.
That they can handle transactions efficiently. Yeah.
If they keep having those glitches and delays,
They're going to push people away.
it's going to drive users to their competitors.
Exactly.
Seems like Hyperliquid is juggling like a million things right now.
It does, doesn't it?
Security, technical stability, market sentiment.
And they're all connected.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in.
It really is. And how they navigate these challenges is going to determine their future.
If they can address these issues, reassure investors, regain that momentum,
They could come out of this stronger than ever.
that's always the hope.
It is, but there's also a chance things could go south
Oh yeah,
if they don't address these concerns adequately.
they could lose users' trading volume could plummet.
The HYPE token could tank even further.
Right, and that could have a ripple effect
Across the whole DeFi space, yeah.
because Hyperliquid is a big player.
A major player, if they fall, it could shake confidence in the whole sector.
That's a sobering thought.
It is.
Okay, so let's take a step back.
Okay.
Big picture time. What does all of this tell us about the state of DeFi right now?
Well, I think it shows us the incredible potential of DeFi.
But also the risks.
The inherent risks, yes.
Because DeFi is still young.
it's still in its early stages.
It's innovative, it's disruptive,
It's attracting a ton of attention and money.
but it's also attracting bad actors.
People who want to exploit those vulnerabilities.
Right, so it's a bit of a Wild West out there.
That's a great analogy.
Exciting, but risky.
Very risky.
And I think this whole Hyperliquid situation really emphasizes the importance of due diligence.
Doing your research.
Thinking critically.
Having a healthy dose of skepticism.
Don't get caught up in the hype.
Right. Do your homework before you invest your money.
Exactly. And luckily, there are resources out there to help.
Oh, there are.
Deep dives like this one.
Reputable news sources.
Educational platforms.
With wealth of information out there.
So people can empower themselves.
They'll make smart decisions.
Informed decisions.
Yes.
So ultimately, that's what it's all about.
Empowering individuals to participate in this exciting new world of DeFi.
But to do it safely and responsibly.
That's the key.
Because the future of DeFi is bright.
It is.
But it's up to all of us to ensure that it grows in a sustainable and responsible way.
Absolutely.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Hyperliquid, what's the final takeaway for our listeners?
DeFi is exciting. It's evolving rapidly, but it's not without risks.
Stay informed, stay vigilant,
And always do your research.
before you invest.
Wise words.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Until next time.
Stay curious out there.